Hey guys, today is the 26th Tuesday of September, about 5 o'clock in the evening Pacific time. Thank you for tuning into the channel. Wanted to do a quick review of one company that popped up on the list today on the scanners, Rivian, as one of the most gainers with high volume today. Overall, the market had a tough day on the downside. NASDAQ going down 1.5% to 207 points, down 207 points. S&P 500 down almost 1.5%, down 63 points. And the Dow Jones also down about 1.1%, 338 points. So a tough day overall in the market, but this was expected, as we have been mentioning consistently, that this is going to be a watch and wait kind of a market. So Rivian popped up quite effectively because it went up about 5.35% today on the close. So let's go through a five-step process, see why and what we would do in terms of trading it. Start always, as I do, with the fundamentals. And essentially what I'm looking for is consistency of any sort. The one big news that actually drove it was going to beat delivery estimates. Rivian was going to beat delivery estimate was what a lot of analysts were saying, which is why it moved up. Same with Fisker, FSR, a competitor, by the way. So that was the driving news. Let's look at Rivian overall from a income statement, annual basis first. How's it doing since 2021? The revenues really are from 2021. So it's gone significantly. As you can imagine, they didn't ship anything. And now last year, they shipped about $1.6 billion worth of cars, and revenue was $1.6 billion. Still losing money pretty significantly, about 6.75 billion. Trailing 12 months, they're going to lose about 3 billion in revenue, lose about nearly 6 billion almost. On a quarterly basis, you can see that they've been a little bit up, and then they significantly started doing more production last quarter. And so the 50,000 units that they're expecting was halved. So now it should be somewhere in the range of roughly about 25 to 50,000 is what they're saying. They should meet that estimate. So production is ramping up. So this looks good. Of course, the big challenge is going to be, when are they going to make money? That doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon in the next year or so, but should continue to keep watching it. And as I put a note back, it's forming a bull flag going towards 25. So that was one of my note a few days ago. I expected it to do very well. And now that we know, financially, they're starting to be able to do their shipments and deliveries of cars more consistently. So I would suspect it will probably continue to do very well. Valuation looks okay for a company that was at one point in time, at this point, I would say December 21 or November 21 when they went public, they were nearly at $150 a share. It's come down to about $20 a share now. So valuation looks a little bit more attractive at 21 billion. Still rich, still very, very rich. So let's draw some charts or graphs and see where and how this thing plays. The first thing that is obvious to most of us would be the fact that it's on a downtrend. So I'm going to draw just the trend lines as to where I see it overall at a very high level. Those are the trend lines, parallel lines all the way down. So it's gone through a consolidation period, stage 4, decline to a large extent, went through a very short sort of a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 again, more consolidation, stage 4 again. And then over the last, I would say, close to 6 months, May was when it's really started a good uptrend, and now taking a little bit of a break, retesting some of the bottom. So we know that overall, just keep in mind, at a very high level, it's still on a downward trend. You could say that it's maybe, if you look at it this way and say this is where the trend ended, it's trying to break out of that trend to a certain extent, but we've got to keep watching it. That's the first thing that strikes me. If you go a little bit further, you have to adjust this. I think that's one of the key things to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit more. This looks like it's going to be adjusted as well. I'm going to pull this from this time frame, the lowest you can see, and then move it up a little bit to kind of this time frame. So that's one of the first things to notice. Okay, let's draw some resistances and support. This seems like it's touched this space 40.84 twice, a couple of times actually, and maybe 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then fallen from there. So that's a big resistance. The 40 is definitely a big resistance on the weekly chart. You can also see this resistance, or the 28 is another big resistance. 1, 2, 3, Yeah, 3 times it's tried to reach that and then fallen down. That's another point of resistance. What about the support? Definitely the 11.66 is the lowest point of support that you can see for Rivian. And then besides that, there also seems to be a couple of touches, more than a couple of touches actually. It's reversed once off of the 19. So this being somewhat of a zone that is of interest to us, we got to watch that a little bit. So that's on the weekly. Going into the daily chart, what am I seeing? Remember, this was in a long-term, little bit of downtrend, trying to come out of the zone. So this is that zone. It's trying to come out of this zone. It seems to be now consolidating in this region. So that's the first thing you can see in the stock. It seems to want to do a lot of consolidation and then brooms up. So here's an example. This is the, if you will, what I would call the personality of the stock. Consolidates and then goes up. Consistent resistance. So it actually has done a good job of being within the zone for quite a bit of time. Similarly, I would expect, like it is done right now, it's done quite a bit of consolidating, shopping and shipping around. So it has to break through first this trend line zone somewhere in the short term 23.64. It's got to break through that. It's got to break through risk resistance as well in the 24.56. And then finally, if it gets through all of that, it's got to break through this resistance at 28. So in the medium term, I would expect, in the short term, I would expect it to hit at least to the 23 zone, 23.86, 23.64, and then break again or go up. Now, break again is more likely from this zone, unless there's a lot of buying, in which case it would easily jump up all the way. So my first impression is there's quite a bit of selling that might happen in the 24.64 zone. Let's put that as an area of resistance. And actually, no, let's just move this resistance zone a little bit lower. So that's one resistance. 24.56 is one resistance. And the support still, I'm going to keep it in this zone. The $19 mark, or maybe a little bit higher in the 1962 mark. So that's what I would expect. First, I would expect, I don't see any big flags. There is no head and shoulders pattern. Don't see anything amazing about it that would cause me to worry too much. But at the same time, there's a lot of resistance for it to go higher. On the weekly chart, as you can see, it's done the same thing again and again. Just look at that pattern of the stock. It seems to be doing this consistently. It stays in a zone for quite a bit of time. And this one is a little bit longer of a zone. It stayed in this zone for such a long time. Let's see how long has it stayed in that zone. All the way from April of 22 to December 22. And then again, did the same thing in January 23 to May, June of 23, and then bumped up, or May of 23, actually June of 23 started moving upwards, broke through that zone. So this is going to be another consolidation zone more than anything else is what I think, even if it goes through all the way to 40. So this is going to be more of a long-term play. If you believe in the company, believe in the stock, then I would say I would probably pay a very long-term play. Short term, there is no big motivating catalyst unless you look at shipments coming out, which is somewhere in the next couple of weeks to a month or so when they announce shipments for the next quarter, which is the current quarter, Q3. And that should take the stock one way or the other over the direction. My suspicion, given how well they've been anticipating it, this should actually go through all the way to 28, test this zone again. By earnings. And when is earnings expected? Earnings is expected somewhere in the, so the last earnings was on August. So September, October, November. November is when you should expect earnings. We are still in the end of September. So it's going to take a while for the earnings to come out. Probably, probably early part of November, 8th of November is when I would expect the next earnings, somewhere in this time frame. So by that time, I should expect the stock to have at least gone past this resistance zone, gone past the 24.30 mark, all the way up close to the 28 mark. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it very much. Please subscribe to the channel.